Good morning. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm Amy Bryant, Shirley's daughter-in-law. I would like to welcome you all to our remembrance and celebration ceremony for Shirley Bryant. Today, some of her family members will share their memories of their beloved wife, mom, grandma, and sister. At the end, we would love to have anyone that would like to share thoughts or stories about Shirley to do so, and we'll ask you to do that. While I am not a blood Bryant, I have had the honor sorry, of marrying into this sweet family. Shirley always made me feel very welcome and very loved. She would tell me what a wonderful job I did taking care of Larry, and then Julia and Will, even if I wasn't sure if that was true. She never withheld a compliment and was fiercely protective of all of us. Getting together as a family was so enjoyable to her, and she loved to laugh and have fun crafting, playing games, and visiting. I am so thankful for Shirley and how she shaped Larry and Gail into the amazing and loving people that they are, and what an example she has been for her grandchildren. I'm proud to be part of her family. To live a life where people remember you, as we remember Shirley today, is truly a life that's worth living. So, forgive me. We would like to start with Shirley's eldest granddaughter, Ellie, and she's going to play something for us on the piano.
Hi, I'm Will, and I'm 10 years old. I am Grandma Shirley's favorite grandson. She was very nice, positive, and she was happy all the time. I love her so much, and I'm going to miss her. Thank you.
My grandma was the kind of person who made a huge impact through many small acts of generosity, understanding, and resilience. I remember her saving up her change to send home in big Ziploc bags for Julia and Will and I, and I remember her always taking note of our favorite foods and making sure to have them at every occasion. Um, I have more scarves and hats that she knitted for me than I can count, and I'm pretty sure that I practically lived in a poncho she made me when I was little until I grew out of it. My grandma was the epitome of strength. Not only did she remain optimistic through any trial presented to her, but she also pushed to make things better for everyone. She was a caregiver to all of us too. She was a therapist when you needed her to be. She listened to everything I had to say and always had a good story to tell. We would do puzzles and make cards and go to the movies together, and she patiently helped my mom and I with our knitting endeavors that we usually never quite finished. She cheered all of us on in everything we did, whether it be our favorite sport, basketball, or ukulele or musicals. I remember going to Chicago to the American Girl doll store with her and my other grandma during spring break one year, and I got the stomach flu. And all the way home, and once we got back to Iowa, she took care of me, even when it was really frustrating because I couldn't swallow pills. In truth, there will never be enough time or words to describe what my grandma meant to me. But in 16 years I have known her, she's always been there for me, waiting patiently and giving her all. And those little things that she has done have changed many worlds. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Julia Shirley, named after the two best grandmothers in the world. And I hope to one day grow up and be as good of a woman as they are. Kind, considerate, caring, generous, dedicated, and understanding. I can't believe I've lost one of the most important role models in my life. I would like to say a prayer if you'd like to bow your heads. Dear Lord, be with me today in the stillness and comfort me as I remember my grandma. Be with me as I look back, remembering her as I mourn, and be with me as I look forward to the journey that lies ahead. Give me the strength to talk of hope and the courage to show love. In Jesus' name, amen.
In case you were wondering, clam chowder was my favorite recipe that Mom had. And Gail seeded that to me instead of taco soup, I think. I can't, um, I can't find any words to encapsulate uh, Mom or what she meant to everybody. But if I had to give a defining personality characteristic, it would have to be selflessness. Mom was always more concerned with other people's welfare than her own. It was almost to a fault. I don't know how many times Gail called me up and said, "Hey, did you know that Mom had a medical procedure or was sick or even had surgery and we didn't know about it beforehand?" And you'd call her on it and she would say, you know how Mom said things, she would say, "Oh, I just didn't want you guys to worry about me." She never really had ill things to say anything about anybody. She did have a dark spot in her heart for Tom Izzo in Michigan State, but that was that was forgivable because she took her basketball very, very seriously. Every time he'd come on TV, oh, I can't stand that Tom Izzo. We were all, really? Because you never say anything bad about anybody else. I'm not a religious person. I'm more of a fan of physics. But every once in a while, I find a little bit of comfort in something that indicates that the two aren't mutually exclusive. And there's a story that Albert Einstein, upon learning of the passing of his friend, wrote that he may have left the world a little bit sooner than himself, but that it didn't really matter, because for people like him and his friend, they understood that the distinction between the past and the present and the future was just a persistent illusion. And I'd like to believe that that's true, and that Mom and her laugh that everybody talks about are out there for eternity, just waiting for us to stumble upon again.
I want to thank everybody for coming. Mom would be so happy to see everybody here, her family and friends. Everybody meant so much to her. And I also want to give a special thank you to my sister-in-law, because I don't think we would have made through the past couple days without her help and support. And so I thank her very much. My mom was just a great friend to me. We fought all through junior high school. And then by high school, I realized that she was the best friend. I could tell her anything. And if you know anything about the Plumbers, they are fierce protectors. Her mom was a protector, her brothers and sisters were protectors, and my mom was my protector. And that's what I remember about her most. She always protected me. One time when I was in junior high, I used to babysit all the time, but mostly for one family. And that family recommended me to another family one night. It was a Saturday night, and I thought that was probably okay because they knew the people. And the people got home on time, so they were going to take me home on time. And we didn't have cell phones then. And but there were two couples, and the two guys took me home, and they didn't know exactly where I lived, but I lived not a couple blocks away. And so as we got in the car, I could tell they were pretty drunk. And additionally, they started saying really inappropriate things to a young girl. And I was very scared, and I was giving them directions, and we got close, and just my mom had the sixth sense. Normally she might wait up for me, but she wouldn't be. She was standing by the door with the light on, and I saw her, and I knew I was going to be okay. I just said, "Oh, there's my mom," and I jumped out of the car and ran home. So she just had this uncanny sense of what was going to happen and who needed taking care of. One time, when I was in high school, one of my friends, Debbie Volkmer, it was going to be her birthday the next day. And it was a school night, but a bunch of us girls, we thought we would go TP her house once it got dark. And then after we TP'd her house, we thought, oh, we'll just walk around town for a while and see what's going on, just kind of a gang of girls in a small town. And pretty soon, Mom drove up in the car, and I was like, oh no, it must be really late. I didn't have a watch. We didn't, and they were like, oh, you're going to be in trouble, and so I got in the car, and it was 2 a.m. already, and I said, oh, Mom, I am so sorry, so sorry. She said, okay, and she drove home, and when we got close to home, she drove really, really slowly into the driveway, and she looked at me and she said,
don't slam the door. Your dad thinks you're in the bathroom right now. So, forever my protector. And I hope she's going to keep protecting me a little bit differently. But I love her. We talk almost every other day, and she's such a good friend. I'm really going to miss her. I'm going to keep talking to her. She may talk back, she may not. But and once again, I just thank you all for coming.
Well, I'm dependent on these notes I put together because I've got an excuse. I'm up there in age. But I want to thank all of you for coming today. And I guess probably what I'm going to do is talk about Mom and our life together, try to summarize some of the most important points that I wanted to make. So I'll proceed. We never know where fate will take us, but I've been extremely fortunate. I've aspired to many different pursuits in my life, but the most rewarding and fortuitous decision I ever made was when I decided to pursue Shirley. And I mean pursue. And you'll see from the next comments how that panned out. She was a delightful girl who was a dedicated worker and initially didn't seem to be interested in me at all, so I worked to win her heart. For many things, my mom would contribute whether she was asked to or not. So I inquired of her about Shirley, and she was very complimentary regarding her. And I'd just gotten out of the military, and Mom had known her for a significant time. But she gave me the impression that Shirley would only be interested in a wholehearted commitment, and that she deserved the best. And I could tell from the tone of her voice that she was implying that I probably wasn't it. And you have to know my mom to know that's absolutely the way it was. Some of you here today now, and I won't point you out, were queried regarding my chances, and for the most part candidly told me they were not good. And I'm being very candid. Bottom line, I finally managed to win her heart. I courted her while I was in college, calling on her after I got off work at midnight. And we'd have a few minutes together. And I'd drive across town and call at the house after making an appointment. And I guess one of Shirley's primary attributes was that she was exceptionally loyal. After marriage, we went on to graduate school. You'll see my deficiencies here. She typed my dissertation components and papers after working 8 hours at the telephone company in Columbia. She accurately assessed later on, after she'd done all this and looked out for me all this time, that my inability to type was a dramatic drawback, and she couldn't understand that because everybody she knew had gone through typing and was accomplished at it. And I guess I had never been allowed to even think about a typing course because I wasn't in that kind of a curriculum when I went to high school. Well, Shirley recommended that I learn, and ultimately that turned out to be extremely beneficial, especially with the advent of new and sophisticated computers. But this was before they had sophisticated computers, so she put me to work at practicing on a toy, battery-powered toy keyboard. That was the best thing I could have done. I was never as accomplished as somebody who was actually formally trained, but I got so that I was pretty good. And that took place right after graduate school. Shirley stayed with me for 51 years of marriage and numerous moves and other endeavors. Talk about love and dedication. And with me, I felt very privileged. She was undoubtedly the best for me, my kids and grandkids. My kids turned out to be extremely adaptable because they had to go with us. And they took to it like a duck to water. They were very flexible. She and the kids have made my life extremely rewarding. I can't emphasize that enough. You talk about lucky. I've been lucky. And on the advent of her passing, I'm going to miss her desperately. To sum up my gratitude and love, I quote a verse from a card I gave her on a wedding anniversary that I retrieved just the other day. For being my spouse, my friend, my confidant, my protector, my heart, my life, my soul, for being my companion through thick and thin. Thank you. Happy anniversary. Love, you're the best. Bill. And thank you for listening.
Hello, I'm Debbie, Shirley's sister. And just so you know, I'm imagining you all naked. So, you might want to cover up certain parts. And just for Roger, I made this 3 pages, not 10 pages. Shirley was born in a small, humble home in Odo, Iowa. She was actually born at home to a small country family. She had one older brother, Wayne, who was almost 2, and he was also had been delivered at home. A year and a half later, Evelyn joined the family, and she was delivered at home, but it was a blizzard, and the doctor didn't make it there until the next day. Our grandmother delivered her. So Shirley and Evelyn got to be BFFs for life. They were always together. Shortly before Shirley started kindergarten, the family moved to Climbing Hill. Our dad farmed 250 acres that he rented from a dentist in Sioux City. Dad paid half of the farm expenses, and he got to keep half of the profit from farming. The dentist showed up at our house every Sunday morning to check on the progress. He really liked my mother's cooking, and if he was lucky, he got asked to stay for dinner. He especially liked her chocolate pie. Dad raised corn, oats, alfalfa, pigs, cattle, and kids. Sometimes he also raised soybeans. Ev told me that the kids would walk the beans, pulling the weeds. Growing up, things weren't always easy. The house on the farm in Climbing Hill was a little primitive. It had no indoor bathroom. There was a pump at the kitchen sink that pumped only cold water. To get hot water, you had to heat it up on the wood-burning stove. So you had to chop wood or gather corn cobs, bring them into the house, and start a fire to get hot water. Every couple of years, there was an addition to the family until there were 9 of us children. With that growing family, Shirley and Ev had to learn to cook, clean, do laundry, and take care of kids at an early age. I'm sure this is where she learned how to show up, to pull more than her share, to give, and to love her family. These are traits that she practiced every day of her life. We all took a bath once a week in a tub behind the stove with the same water. Eventually, Dad added indoor plumbing. There was an underground root cellar in the yard, which our dad often used as a storm cellar. He seemed to have an unreasonable fear of storms, and whenever there was a sign of a storm, whether it was in the middle of the day or in the middle of the night, we all got dragged into the storm cellar. Mother hated going to the storm cellar. She would say, "Take the kids and go, I'm staying here." But he always made her go too. Then after the storm, we would all traipse through the mud back into the house. Shirley attended Climbing Hill High School. The school had grades K through 12, all in one building. So you got to know all the kids in all the grades. During thrashing season, all the farmers in the area helped each other harvest their crops. Often during thrashing, Shirley and Ev stayed home from school to help Mother cook for the workers. Then Mother would write them a note for school next day saying that they were sick, which they probably were. In high school, Shirley loved basketball. Well, everyone did. At their small school, everyone would try out for basketball, and almost everyone made the team. The 4 or 5 kids that didn't make the team were the cheerleaders. The Plummer sisters were fierce competitors. Shirley played on the varsity team her junior and senior years, and they were undefeated in their conference both years. Her love of basketball lasted a lifetime, and she enthusiastically cheered for Iowa and Iowa State, among other teams. All in all, I believe Shirley would say she had a happy childhood. She graduated from high school in 1956. Her graduation class had 12 students. That same year, the family moved to Council Bluffs. Shirley worked at World Radio for a year and then at Northwestern Bell as a telephone operator. After a few years, she was promoted to group chief operator and lived in Shenandoah for a while, where she would come home in Shenandoah for a while. And during that time, she and Bill were having a short distance relationship. She would come home weekends to see him. Sometimes in the summer, she would let me go back with her to Shenandoah to spend a week. I remember going to the Sydney, Iowa rodeo with her then. She had an original Barbie doll with a wedding dress that she never let me touch. I gave Bill a hard time, but in spite of me, Shirley borrowed Kay Miller's wedding dress, and they got married in 1965. For the last 25 years, Shirley, Ev, and I have taken a sister's trip, just the 3 of us. These trips are some of my very favorite memories. Some of the places we have gone are Branson, Chicago, where we attended an Oprah show, Las Vegas, where we rode the world's fastest roller coaster, Los Angeles, where we went to the Price is Right and Family Feud tapings, Pella during the Tulip Festival, the Amana Colonies, the Great Mall of Minnesota, where we shopped for a solid week, North Carolina to visit Ron and Sherry, and an elaborate guided bus tour through New England one fall to see the trees turning. We also had great extended family vacations at a campground in Minnesota and at a huge beach house on the Outer Banks. The best part of our trips and family vacations were always the times we would laugh together. Laugh till we cried. Shirley had the best laugh, and she laughed loud and often. Our last sisters trip was just a couple weeks ago. We couldn't think of any place we wanted to go, so we just went to Roger's house in Council Bluffs at Lake Manawa prior to our annual Plummer family reunion on Memorial Day. Ron and Sherry and Linda, Bobby's wife, joined us at Roger's, and we all spent 5 days just hanging out together. We went to our favorite restaurants. We watched baseball and basketball games on TV. We went to a movie. We got manicures, but mostly we just spent hours sitting around the table or on the deck drinking coffee, talking about our grandkids and other hot topics, laughing and enjoying each other's company. Even though Shirley's laugh was loud, she was actually a quiet person. She was also kind, giving, creative, smart, thoughtful, funny, a Democrat, articulate, steady, and a great role model for all of us. My daughter, Andy, says that Plummer women are strong. We don't cry much, but we make things happen. If you want something done, just ask a Plummer woman. I remember that our mother was strong. I see that our daughters and nieces are strong. And every day I get to see my granddaughter. She's a strong woman. Shirley was a strong woman. She was also someone you could count on. If you told her something, you could count on it. She gave thoughtful, personal gifts. And this is amazing. I never heard her say a bad word about anyone, ever. And I never heard her say she was unhappy. Yes, she had her shares of trouble, but she almost always had a positive outlook and a smile on her face. Shirley was a great sister. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say she was a solid 10. She was also a great wife, a great mother, and a great grandmother. Shirley fell in love and had a long, happy marriage. She raised 2 successful kids who always loved their mother. She was blessed with 3 amazing, perfect grandchildren who she adored, doted on, and was so proud of. She was loved by many people. By any measure, she had a good life. Well done, Shirley. We miss you so much.
Thank you so much for all your kind words, everybody that was sort of scheduled to talk. As everyone's sitting here, I'm thinking that they did such a better job than me, how eloquent they've spoken about this person that they love so much. And the thing that I kept thinking about were 2 things. One, when I stayed at home with the kids and Bill and Shirley would come over, and how carefully she would tend to playing with them, whether it be trains or Barbies or whatever, how her loving hands would always be with her grandchildren. And she did really dote on them. The other thing I think when I remember her coming to our house is how much our cat loved her feet. And we're not really sure if it was just her natural smell or what, but her cat, we have had 2 cats and both of them love her feet as soon as her shoes would come off. So if anyone else would like to share a memory, please come up now, or you can just stand up. I don't know if anyone would like to. Well, I think we've had a lot, and there'll be more times to visit in a little bit. So this will conclude our service. And the family would like to invite everyone to lunch. It's in the reception center, which is sort of where we met with the tables. If you aren't able to stay, Bill and the rest of us will greet you as you leave. And we would like everyone else to go ahead and start eating, and we will join you in a few minutes. But please remain seated, and the staff here will direct everyone out. Thank you so much.